So it's the early part of the last decade. The internet Let's Play community was reaching a fever pitch scale, with the many YouTubers gaining so much notoriety with their choice of games that they shared with their growing communities, which one in particular did pave the way with this new form of entertainment, in which the gamers or players were able to share their horrifying experiences with their viewers when doing a Let's Play on a current horror game. Which at this time, this horror game would have a cult following that spans for the greater part of the last decade, having many highs and definite lows, with some even ending in a real-life tragedy. So in today's episode of Explaining Evil, we'll be covering the terrifying enigma that was Slender Man. So for most of the public who were introduced to Slender Man himself, this all started with the indie game called Slender A Pages, developed by Parsec Productions, in reference to the growing folklore that surrounded Slender Man at that time, which we will cover the origins of this monster shortly. But before that, the game Slender the A Pages took the internet by storm, with many content creators publishing their own reactions as they traversed through the dark forest alone, while being hunted by Slender Man himself, with the main goal of the game was to gather all 8 pages around the area, with the progressive tension heightened with each consecutive page found. Slender Man will also start to become more aggressive and become harder to evade. This very simple game style of cat and mouse while looking for the needed items to escape was a very good formula for both the hardcore and casual gamers out there. It was very easy to binge watch and play this game, and letting others know about your experiences, prompting them to play the game as well. In essence, going viral from YouTube and word of mouth. Now, as mentioned earlier, the game Slender A Pages was inspired from the real-world folklore that was brewing on the internet, which the origins of Slender Man came from its initial creation in 2009 by a man named Eric Knudsen, also known as Victor Surge. The reasonings for the creation of this monster was part of his post on the website called Something Awful, which content creators would post on the forum called Create Paranormal Images with the help of Photoshop, with some end results would garner some notoriety and eventually becoming into a speculated story of a true life events, with some background lore explaining said pictures that were shared on the forum, with some examples of these images right here, with the old style photos presented and the children going about their day on the playground, were presented with Slender Man always in the background. This would all be the start of the folklore or mythology based around this mysterious being, especially when it reached the website 4chan when it went viral by that time, prompting many photos, videos, creepypastas, and many other media forums giving their own rendition and life about Slender Man, with many people really taking to the mythology behind the design of the monster, which I can reference one of the posts that described this monster, stating that the Slender Man is a supernatural creature that is described as appearing as a normal human being, but he is described as being 8 feet tall, and he has vectors or extra appendages that are described to be as sharp as swords. The creature is known to stalk humans and cause many disappearances. He is described as a shadow creature that has a missing face. The creature fits into many mythologies in legends from nations such as Germany and the Celts, which brings up the possibility that he could be real. Even the creator, Victor Surge himself, mentioned on his inspiration for Slender Man in one of the interviews, stating that it was mostly influenced by H.P. Lovecraft, Stephen King, specifically the short stories, the surreal imaginings of William S. Burroughs, and the couple of games of the survival horror genre, Silent Hill and Resident Evil. I feel the most direct influences were Zach Parsons' The Insidious Beast, the Stephen King short story The Mist, the essay tale regarding the Rake, the reports of so-called shadow people, Mothman, and the Mad Gasser of Mattoon. I used these to formulate a something whose motivations can barely be comprehended and causes general unease and terror in the general population. So funny enough, this summarization from the creator of Slender Man himself would be the perfect foundation to the actual creep mythology of this monster, because Slender Man was never described as a monster who killed those unfortunate enough to see him. Instead, the lore behind him was stated that the preference of him always lurking in the shadows or standing from a faraway place but looking in your general direction was the creep factor part of his mythology. Some even mentioned that another form of Slender Man's haunting was him ordering those who followed his occult and would be the ones to enact the physical actions in real life, which this brings us to some real life tragedies when children did follow this exact principle.
And our big story at 5, two 12-year-old girls charged with trying to stab a friend to death.
At just 12, these two girls nearly took another classmate's life.
These real-life tragedies are happening because the suspects want to please Slender Man. It just shows the impact that this one internet monster had for millions of people out there, which in summary, these two young girls from Wisconsin lured their friend into the woods, eventually stabbing the victim 19 times, then fleeing from the crime scene. Fortunately, the victim was able to crawl out of the woods, and help was given shortly after. What's more insidious about the whole situation was the planning of the attack. The two girls at the time described to the detectives that they had several plans in mind on how they were going to proceed with the attack. One in particular was so disturbing to me that I can't even muster up the description of their plan for their friend.
When investigators asked why they did it, they both had the same answer: Slender Man. And this is where a violent and nearly murderous act becomes simply bizarre. Slender Man is a fictional internet monster, a ghoul who lurks in chat rooms and some of the internet's darkest corners. He's faceless, often portrayed in a dark suit with octopus-like tentacles. Slender Man is believed to haunt children and those who look to expose him. Police say the two attackers said they first encountered Slender Man on the website Creepypasta Wiki. They thought he was real, police say, and that if they didn't kill their classmate, then Slender Man would hurt them or their family.
Though the silver lining is that the victim made a full recovery, the suspects were charged and sentenced to a mental institution. But new news has come out that one has requested to be released and was found to be mentally stable by 3 different doctors.
Today, one of the 2 teenagers locked up at a mental hospital for years after stabbing her friend is about to get out. It's the Slender Man stabbing case that made international headlines back in 2014. Then, just 12 years old, 2 girls, Morgan Geyser and Anissa Wire, lured a friend to the woods in Waukesha and stabbed her 19 times, nearly killing her. They said they did it to please a fictional character named Slender Man. Both were sentenced to years in a mental health institution. Today, now 19 years old, Anissa Wire is being released.
Good afternoon, Vince. That's right. I'm at the park where this terrible event took place in 2014. At this time, we do know the conditions of Anissa Wire's release. For one, she's expected to live with her father. His current residence is unknown to us. On top of that, conditions include a case manager overseeing her medication to help her deal with any anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder. Overall, making sure her mental health is closely monitored. She'll also be barred from the internet, the place where she was drawn into the fictional world of Slender Man in the first place. She's also barred from social media, a cell phone, no access to drugs or alcohol, entry to bars, and she'll also be monitored, GPS monitored 24/7 with either an ankle or a wrist bracelet, an ankle bracelet it is, in fact, to make sure that her locations, her whereabouts are known at all times.
And of course, this was one instance that tragedy would occur in the name of Slender Man, because there was another account of a young girl attacking her own mother with a knife in Ohio, again inspired by Slender Man, with the mother's recounts quoting, "I came home one night from work and she was in the kitchen waiting for me, and she was wearing a mask, a white mask. She was someone else during the attack." Of course, more reports of similar nature were reported during the course of the last decade. Victor Surge, the creator of Slender Man, has given his sympathies and condolences to those affected by these tragic events. Again, all in the name of Slender Man. So in the end, where does this all lead to? Well, we eventually get a full-fledged game called Slender the Arrival, which Victor Surge did write the story of this game, and this time around was developed by a different gaming developer called Blue Isle Studios, with the gameplay that you guys have been watching showing a vast improvement to the graphics and sounds. Though the core gameplay is still very much like from the Slender the A Pages, which we have to keep our distance from Slender Man while we complete some of the in-game objectives. Also, on a quick side note, a movie was made about Slender Man, and let's just say it would be better to avoid watching it.
What?
Because in conclusion, I think the growing mythology that was brewing in the early part of the last decade would be the peak for this monster, which at that time, no accounts of real-world tragic events were taken, and the internet making this absolute viral sensation at the time was quite something to be a part of, though this internet-based occult would result in some real-life evil events, all in the name of Slender Man. Anyways, I do hope you guys enjoyed this short episode of Explaining Evil, featuring the faceless Slender Man himself. So if you guys want more videos like these in the future, then feel free to click on the videos right here. Anyways, thank you guys so much, and this is Hey DeVuH, and I'll see you guys in the next video.